What's up YouTube, Saf here on Super Saf TV, and we have here the Huawei P20 Pro for an unboxing. One of the first here on YouTube, so a thumbs up for that would be appreciated. Now let's get straight to it. Inside the box, of course, we get the Huawei P20 Pro, but as well as that, we get a SIM card ejector tool with some paperwork, the power brick, which does support Huawei's Supercharge, a USB Type-C to USB Type-A cable, some USB Type-C earphones, and yes, that's because the P20 Pro unfortunately does not have a 3.5mm headphone jack. And because of that, you also get a USB Type-C to 3.5mm headphone jack converter. Right, now let's get to the device itself, and we'll remove this plastic. And first things first, I gotta say I absolutely love this color. For the build, we've got a metal frame with curved glass on the front and back. And the P20 Pro is available in 4 colors: black, midnight blue, pink gold, and twilight, which is the version that I've got here. And it looks absolutely beautiful. It's got a gradient color finish which makes it look very unique, but it is definitely going to attract lots of fingerprints. So I'd recommend picking up a clear case so you can really show off this color but protect it at the same time. The device is also IP67 water and dust resistant. On the right hand side there's a power button as well as the volume rocker. On the left hand side there's a SIM card tray. On the top we do have an IR blaster. This is something that we don't see much of these days, so it's great that Huawei have included this. And at the bottom we have 2 grills. One of these is a single bottom firing speaker, the other is a mic, and then we have a single USB Type-C port in the middle. And as mentioned earlier on, that is because we don't have a 3.5mm headphone jack. And we do have up to 990 kilobits per second Bluetooth transfers, so you can get some high quality wireless audio with this. Now let's move on to the front. And one of the cool things is that we do have a pre-applied screen protector, which is always nice. And this reveals a 6.1-inch OLED display, which has an 18.7:9 aspect ratio, 2240 by 1080 pixels, so that's full HD plus resolution. Now the bezels are pretty small overall. However, we do have a bit of a chin, but that is because we have a front-facing fingerprint scanner. Now personally, I do prefer a front-facing fingerprint scanner, so it is quite nice that they've managed to include this, even though the device has small bezels. And at the top, yes, there's a notch. Now the notch is smaller than the iPhone but slightly larger than the Essential phone, and it houses a 24 megapixel front-facing camera with an f2.0 aperture. Now apparently these are larger than average size pixels, which should give you better low light selfies. And there is also a portrait mode from the front-facing camera, which seems to work pretty well. Now I know how most people, including myself, feel about the notch, but it's notch like you can't do anything about it. Okay, anyway, basically you can hide the notch through software. Now this is gonna put a black bar behind the notch, so you'll still be able to see useful information such as your battery indicator as well as the time. So I'm glad that they've included this, because if you don't like the notch, then you can hide it. Now let's move on to the back and talk about the cameras, which are the highlight feature of the P20 Pro. We've got a Leica triple camera setup. There's one monochrome camera, which is 20 megapixels with an f1.6 aperture. There's an RGB camera with a whopping 40 megapixels and an f1.8 aperture. And finally, there's a telephoto camera with 8 megapixels and an f2.4 aperture with optical image stabilization. There's also a color temperature sensor, which is going to help with your white balance, and a laser transmitter and receiver for improved autofocus. Now Huawei are using something called light fusion technology, which is basically going to combine 4 pixels into one on that RGB sensor, apparently giving you great low light images at 10 megapixels. It's also the biggest sensor on a smartphone, 223% larger compared to the iPhone at 10, and 170% larger compared to the S9. You've also got up to 102,400 extended ISO, which is the highest on a smartphone, and for comparison, the S9 and the iPhone 10 can shoot at up to 6,400 ISO. This basically means that you're going to be able to take a picture even with 1 lux of light. Now this all sounds absolutely insane, and I cannot wait to check this out. You've also got 5 times hybrid zoom, which is supposed to be better than anything else out there, as well as a 4-in-1 hybrid autofocus system and 4D predictive focus, which is going to instantly focus based on object motion prediction. For slow-mo, there is up to 960 frames a second at 720p. Once again, this is a burst like we've seen on previous devices. And we've got 4K at 30 frames a second. There's also lots of AI assistance with the camera, one of those being master stabilization. Now Huawei are saying that this is going to allow you to take long exposures of up to 4 seconds handheld. There's also Huawei AIS video stabilization, which is supposed to be more stable than optical and electronic image stabilization. Now all of these things sound absolutely great, but of course we're going to have to do lots of Super Saf style camera comparisons So definitely let me know in the comments below which device you'd like me to compare the cameras of the P20 Pro to first. Now looking at the internals, we do have the Kirin 970 processor, 6GB of RAM with 128GB of base storage, which is not expandable, an absolutely massive 4000 mAh battery, which does support supercharge as mentioned earlier. However, there is no wireless charging unfortunately. In terms of the software, we've got Android 8.1 with EMUI 8.1 on top. Now I know EMUI is not for everybody, but there are some new AI assisted features which we'll be checking out in some future videos. And as well as the P20 Pro, today there was also the P20 announced, which has a very similar build and design to the P20 Pro, but has a 5.8-inch LCD display, 4GB of RAM, a 3400 mAh battery, a Leica dual camera setup with 12 megapixels RGB and 20 megapixels monochrome, and this will be coming in cheaper compared to the P20 Pro. Now in terms of pricing and availability, unfortunately I've not been given this information as yet, but as soon as I have it, I will be dropping that in the description below. So there we have it guys, that is the Huawei P20 Pro unboxing and first look. In terms of my first impressions, I am really looking forward to checking out those cameras. I do also really like the build and design, and although we don't have some features like wireless charging as well as stereo speakers, it definitely looks like a very promising device overall. What do you guys think of the Huawei P20 Pro? Definitely drop me a comment below and let me know. Also let me know what videos you'd like me to cover with this. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then do hit that thumbs up button for me. And if you haven't already, then be sure to subscribe and switch on notifications. There's lots more content coming up on here. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on Super Saf TV. I'll see you next time.